What's up, y'all? So, I just jumped on real quick to just talk to you all about understanding. My grandpa, he used to always say, understanding is the best thing in the world. And I kind of never understood that until I became an adult myself, where understanding could literally assist us with almost, if not all, of our problems. All right. I notice a lot of people who are sad around this time, or who feel like, oh, I have family, but they're not there for me, and this and that and the third. But I want you to look at everything from a place of understanding. All right. Just look at everything from a place of understanding. I was talking to someone about, my situation with my mother, and they was like, yo, y'all, it's pretty cold out here, by the way. It was like, yo, like, how do you not, still feel some type of way about your mom? And I'm like, listen, my mom wasn't the best mom by no means, not in my eyes, but guess what? I had to look at that situation from a place of understanding. I had to understand exactly what could have possibly caused her to be the way that she was, right? So I look at it how, like, growing up, I felt like I was abandoned by her, I felt like that I was not nurtured by her, right? And so because of this, I began my journey not attaching to people, not getting too close to people, because I'm like, look, ain't nobody about to hurt me like she did me, right? And so as I got older, and the more that I got, the more in depth this journey became for me, I was like, you know what? I really need to let this go. Like, I really need to figure out how I am going to heal these mommy issues and let this stuff go, right? And so I started to begin to explore. All right. And I just looked at my mother's situation, and I looked at my situation. And then I started following my genealogy, right? And I know this sounds crazy, but that's what I did. I started looking at the cultural context of my family, right? And so I look at my family. And so my mom is really old. Even though I'm only 35, my mom is really old, right? And my mom's mother had her very late in the game, right? But my mom's mother was an indentured servant child, right? So she was an indentured servant child, like slavery was over, but they still worked farms, and they were indentured servants. And my grandmother, she only had a 3rd grade level education. Well, her parents were actually slaves, right? And so because they were slaves, their children, okay, when they had children, their children was considered cattle, or their children were monetized. So therefore, they never really got too attached to the offspring, because they knew that that was just, that was just currency, or that was just cattle to them, if you get what I'm saying. So they never gave it love, and they never nurtured this child, and they never did none of this stuff, because they knew that they was going to be detached from these kids. It's kind of like when you look at the animal kingdom and you see pigs, and people are like, oh my goodness, pigs are so harsh. Why do pigs always eat their babies? Well, pigs only eat their babies because they would rather eat their offspring than to allow their offspring to go into this whole thing of becoming a slave on a farm to someone else. Like, people think that animals don't have souls, but they do. And so animals do things based off of instinct. They only make decisions based off what's best for the family. Like the birds, when the birds have babies, if it's not enough food to eat, they would rather kill the baby than to allow the baby, right, to stay there and starve to death. Okay. Or when the swans, the deers, like you look at the antelopes and the deers, a deer will rather take a leap off of a cliff and kill itself than to be ate by another animal in the animal kingdom, okay? And so when you look at the cultural context of your family, you gotta look at what they experienced and what they went through, right? And so they may have went through some horrific things, some things that we can't even begin to understand, we can't begin to fathom, because we were not of that age group, we were not of that, that generation, so we can't begin to understand that. And so what was going on, I felt like now it's time for me to understand. So I began to understand. I'm like, dang, my grandmother was an indentured servant, and her family were slaves, and they couldn't become attached to these children. And so therefore, my grandmother didn't know how to give love in an appropriate manner, right? And so because she didn't know how to give love in an appropriate manner, she couldn't even give her children love, right? And so then my mom, the offspring of that, she was probably feeling insecure and all of these things because she never received the love and the nurturing that she needed to receive from her mother. And when she began to procreate and have children, then she in return gave that same energy to her kids because she didn't know how to do it. How can you give love when you never received love, right? And so she became a product of her circumstances. And therefore, I was a product of her circumstances. So I began to follow this thing through, and I'm like, dang, she went through all of this, right? She went through all of this. And because she went through all of this, this is the treatment that I received. It was easy for her to detach from her offspring because her mother was detached from her offspring, and the energy before that, the mother and father before that, were detached to their offsprings because guess what? They never knew if they was going to be able to keep these children or not, and so when you have circumstances like that, that's why it's important for you to come from a place of understanding, because you never know what the backstory is. You know how they say there's two sides to every story? Oh yeah, there's two sides to every story. So you never know what the backstory is. So what she thought she was doing, she thought that placing me in a situation to where I could possibly get, more attention and love and things like that, would be better off for me, right? That's what she thought, okay? But it wasn't. In my mind, I felt like she raising these other kids and she not taking care of me. Not looking at the fact that she had a whole bunch of kids, And so when people go to complaining to me about, their moms and things, I always encourage them, like, hey, look at your mom's circumstances. Hey, look at your dad's circumstances. I know that you're hurt. I know that you're hurt, but look at it from a place of logic. Look at it from a place of reason. Look at it from a place of understanding, right? People don't if we could all understand, just use understanding, use compassion when we're maneuvering through situations, a lot of the things that we worry ourselves with or concern ourselves with, guess what? We wouldn't even concern ourselves with it because we're like, dang, all that took place. Wow. I can't believe she went through all that. So although me and my mother, we still do not talk on the phone, okay? We don't talk on the phone, we don't do, okay, because she came from a place where no phones exist. She doesn't have that attachment with me. And that's okay. I'm okay with that. I'm accepting of that now. But had I not done that work, had I not did that deeper work, that deeper healing work to where I could really just put myself into her shoes for a second, right? Put myself into her shoes for a second, I would have never got that. I see a lot of people talk about, oh, my mama didn't take care of me properly. My mother, we starved. Yeah, y'all probably did. But look at the circumstances. How far of an education did your mother get? Oh, my father, he didn't take care of me. He abandoned the family, Or he was there for the family, but he never stood up in a man's place. What is a man's place? Do tell me, what is a man's place? All right, but we look at these circumstances and we speak out of our hurt. We speak out of our pain because we're hurt, But you may have been starving with your mother and father, but guess what? They kept you. They tried. They did the best that they could with the circumstances that was provided to them. It may have hurt you. You may have had some issues. You may not have had, You may be jacked up today because of it, but guess what? There's going to come a point in time where you're going to have to take some ownership for some of that, because look at the resources that was available to your family, especially if you're in my age group. I'm assuming that your parents may be in their late 50s, 60s, or 70s if we are of the same generation, right? So look at what was available to them. There was no financial resources to show them how to navigate this world, and take care of their finances and take care of their money, things like that. So there was nothing available to them to do that, right? So they just did what best they could. Also, job opportunities were not the same for people of our race as they were for others, right? So now you gotta look at that. If you're African American, you gotta look at that. And so you come from, or what if they were immigrants? Because immigrant parents, guess what? They come over here. Immigrant parents are not afforded the same resources as American-born parents, right? Even when they get of age for Social Security, they get half of the amount of money that American parents will get, right? So you got to look at all of these obstacles and all of these adversities and this lack of education. And you got to come from a place of understanding. And now you have all of these resources at your disposal. What you can do, all right, what you can do to make it better, you can educate yourself on how to make sure that this doesn't happen to you. You can treat your kids better because you're coming from a place of understanding. You can treat your kids the way that you want it to be treated, okay? So listen. That's all we need to do is come from a place of understanding, because we don't know what was going on back then, but we can ask them, And when I talked to my mom, she told me, she said, well, she told me, she was like, because it's a long story, y'all, but one of the things that she told me, she was like, I thought that I was sending you there to help your grandmother. That's what she said. She thought she was sending me there to help my grandmother, and because I was the only kid there, she thought that I was going to have more resources. Nope. And I told her, nope. I felt abandoned. I went through some things that I shouldn't have gone through, and we had that conversation, I let her know where I was coming from. She let me know where she was coming from. We both came from a place of two different perspectives, because we lived in two different realities. Okay, so think about that too. Y'all may actually live in two different realities. Okay, so that's pretty much it. I just want y'all to, during this time when you're doing this work and when you're doing things, just come from a place of understanding. All right, even when it comes to, like, you seeing people that's on this journey, that's on this walk, and you're like, oh, look at them celebrating Christmas. Okay, let them celebrate Christmas. Who the hell are you to tell somebody what they can and can't celebrate? Maybe that's the only time that these folks can get together. You are not the end all be all. All right, you are not the only one. You're not the dictator of what people can and cannot do with their lives. All right, so that's pretty much it. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of the holiday season. Enjoy your break. And I